Hello. I'm sorry that this episode was late. My brother made a vow, and in doing so, he damned us all. I wake, the fog of sleep falling away in a moment as it does when one is startled from slumber. I sit up, confused and nervous. The room is dim, lit only by the moon leaching away the color and painting everything silver. I look to my left, to the window, but the sheer curtains cover it and I can see nothing outside but a splash of headlights from a car on the street below. To my right is my enormous mirror in its gilded frame. I love that mirror. I see my reflection, disheveled from tossing and turning, the white of my nightgown cutting through the darkness. In the mirror, my reflection stares back at me. Her gaze meets mine. She is as confused and startled as I. As we look at each other, the shadows behind her begin to move, and a pair of bright, malevolent eyes open, looking not at her, but right at me. I scream and leap from bed, whirling about to face the intruder. But there is no one there. I turn back to the mirror and am surprised to find my reflection still sitting up in bed, regarding me with a cocked head and wide eyes. The shadow has crept closer to her. I point, screaming a warning, but my reflection only frowns at me as the shadow lifts a long-fingered, clawed hand. There is something wrong with that hand. I notice not only does it have too many fingers, but each of the fingers has too many joints. I scream again as the shadow grabs my reflection by the hair and drags her backward off the bed. Her feet kick frantically as she vanishes from sight. There is no sound, but surely she must be screaming with fright. No, no! I scream and run to the mirror. I smack my palms against the smooth surface, leaving prints on the otherwise pristine glass. The shadow raises its head above the edge of the bed, and once again looks right at me with its bright eyes. There is nothing to the shadow but darkness, an absence of light. If it has form, if it has bulk, it is hidden in the shifting and moving darkness surrounding it. From the black depths, its eyes shine at me. It smiles, and only then can I see the thin lips stretching wide and then wider across its absent face, thin lips parting to reveal teeth like a shark's, repeating endlessly back into the dark cavern of its mouth. I step back from the mirror, my heart racing. The shadow is moving, dragging my reflection behind it, across the floor and out the door. She is still and quiet but for the movement of her chest as she breathes. A thin trail of blood is left by her dragging heels, parallel lines, slick and moist, a dark, greasy gray in the colorless light. I stare at the reflection of the room, identical in every way to the room in which I stand, but for the lines of blood and my presence. I race out into the hallway, but she is not there. Of course she's not. She's my reflection, and there is no mirror here. There is, however, a large white rabbit with pink eyes. He plucks a watch from a pocket on his fine silk waistcoat and declares, oh dear, I shall be too late," before he vanishes down a rabbit hole which I have never before noticed there in my hallway. "I'm dreaming," I whisper, but it is more hope than conviction that makes me say it. I hurry into the guest room where there is an antique vanity with a large oval mirror. There on the coverlet is Duke, the German shepherd who was my dearest friend when I was 10. He's been dead for 15 years, but still he wags his tail at me and has the grace to look embarrassed about being on the bed. He knows better. I waste no time on Duke, though I loved him dearly. Within the mirror, I see the shadow. It's as if it had paused there in the doorway. To be sure, I could see it. My reflection is beginning to wake, making small twitches and jerks, and her eyes are fluttering. However, the shadow pays no attention to her. It stares at me instead, its grin growing wider and wider until it seems its face must split in two. Then my reflection wakes, sitting up and opening her mouth in a wide and terrified scream, though I hear nothing. The shadow tangles its fingers in her hair once again and drags her kicking and fighting from sight. Duke gazes at me with his worried face, but then he tucks his nose under his tail and curls himself into a tighter and tighter ball until he disappears. I hurry back out into the hall where I'm greeted by Poseidon, the god of the sea. He sits astride a dolphin who is swimming with perfect contentment above the long, darkly patterned hall runner. "It's going to kill her, you know," Poseidon says, stroking his long beard. "And eat her liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti," the dolphin adds. "I'm having a dream," I say, but they swim away down the hall and vanish into my bedroom without a further response. I have no time to worry about whether the wet spot on the runner is seawater or dolphin pee. I hurry to the bathroom with its plethora of mirrors. The shadow holds my reflection down with one hand, waiting for me. When we make eye contact, it gives me a little finger wave. With all those joints on all those fingers, it is a ghastly sight. Like a spindly-legged spider waving all its legs in the air. I have no time to wonder at it, though, as it moves too fast to see and rakes its claws down my reflection's chest and belly. Blood begins to flow from the wounds, and then a horde of butterflies swarm in through the window and begin to flit about the room. Only they're not truly butterflies. They're tarantulas with colorful butterfly wings. Only they're not really tarantulas either, I notice, when one turns to look at me with its 8 very human eyes. It flits up and down, back and forth, regarding me with great seriousness. Then it opens its mouth to reveal teeth like a tiger's before it zips over to my reflection, now completely hidden behind the colorful wings. 9 white cats slink into view as well and crouch around the periphery, happily lapping up the spreading pool of blood. "That can't be good for them," the Queen of Heart offers from where she lounges in my bathtub, which is filled with bubbles and rose petals. When I look back, the cats have all turned the same color as the blood. The spider flies lift into the air and begin to circle the room in a rainbow display of bright colors. The blood is completely gone. In fact, my reflection is completely gone. The spider flies have her. Her fingers reach out through the mass of wings. Her feet kick faintly, seeking the floor below. The shadow cocks its head and smirks at me as the horde of spider flies flit out the door and down the hall, burdened by my reflection. The cats march out after them in a long line, and the shadow follows, his eyes never leaving mine until he is out of sight of the mirror. "Oh God," I whisper, "this must be a dream. Please let it be a dream." From the bath behind me, I hear, "We're all mad here," and
"Why is a raven like a writing desk?"
But I pay the voices no attention as I hurry from the bathroom. Twin little girls stand in my way, staring at me balefully. They are holding hands and wearing matching pale blue dresses with knee socks and Mary Janes. "Leave me alone!" They vanish in a puff of blue smoke as I rush past them. I hurry down the stairs, my bare feet making next to no sound on the carpet. I pause near the bottom. I have mirrors in every room of my house. I've always loved them, the way they brighten a room, make it seem bigger. The shadow could be anywhere, but I think I know where I'll find it. The staircase opens into the living room, where a rectangular mirror sits above the hearth. Several of the spider flies flit about within that mirror, but I do not see the shadow, nor my reflection. I pace past my office, where the oval stand mirror with mahogany frame holds court, and the kitchen, where the mirror with beveled edges is mounted on the pantry door. The downstairs bathroom has a mirror on the door and above the sink. I look into none of them. Duke appears before me, blocking my way into the dining room.
"It's going to kill her, you know,"
he says with a surprisingly suave English accent. He wags his tail at me, but his brown eyes are sad. "I know," I say. Duke swirls about and is replaced by the white rabbit. "You're late! You're late!" he squeaks urgently and vanishes into the rabbit hole at his feet. I try to wake up. I pinch myself, even smack myself in the face. Poseidon watches me with a quizzical expression, but I can't wake myself. I even scream out loud, "Wake up! Wake up! Wake up now!" To no avail. Poseidon shrugs at me, and his dolphin swims away. I peer into the dining room and am unsurprised to see the shadow there in the mirror. The far wall of the rectangular room is entirely mirrored tile. It makes the room seem so big and bright. I've always loved it, but tonight, on this night, the image in the mirror makes me scream into hands cupped over my mouth. The spider flies lower my writhing reflection to the dining table. Her white nightgown is torn and stained with blood. Her thrashing legs knock the enormous candelabra to the floor, and the shadow meets my eyes and smiles. The cats trot into the room. One by one, they drape across my reflection's ankles, her wrists. One lies on her hips, her belly, her chest. Once again, her eyes find mine, and I see her lips forming words I can't make out. But then one of the cats curls up in her hair, and the ninth cat flops down over her eyes. She is held helpless by them, unable to move. The shadow, never taking its eyes from me, circles the table, ignoring my reflection's screams and struggles. She's so very frightened, but I can't help her. The shadow's long-fingered hands hover over my reflection's body, wiggling like spider legs. With exaggerated gentleness, it lifts her gown and splits it from hem to neck, laying it open so her body is exposed. With one claw, it traces a line that fills with blood along the base of her rib cage on the right side of her body, right over her liver. Its shining eyes glint at me. It knows it's won. One spidery hand trails across my reflection's skin, while wiggling the fingers of the other hand at me in a mocking finger wave. Its triumph is complete. I shake my head. No, I know I'm dreaming. It's my dream, and I will take control. I know how to beat it, how to kill it. It lives inside the mirror. "No!" I scream. I dart forward, snatch the candelabra from where it rests on the floor, and charge at the mirror. The shadow lifts its hands to guard its face. The cats scatter away from my reflection. No! 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 I smash the candelabra into the glass. The mirror shatters with a deafening crash, but the shadow shatters as well. He falls into pieces on the carpet below. My reflection sits up. Tears run down her face, and she points towards me. Her lips move. I wake, the fog of sleep falling away in a moment, as it does when one is startled awake. I sit up, confused and nervous. The room is dim, lit only by the moon leaching away the color and painting everything silver. I look to the left, to the window, and then to the enormous mirror to my right. I love that mirror, though I am startled to notice it is marred by a pair of handprints. I see my reflection, disheveled from tossing and turning, the white of my nightgown cutting through the darkness. Her eyes flick behind me suddenly, and she leaps from the bed, her head casting about before she looks back at me, pointing, her mouth opening in a scream. Then I feel the long fingers tangle